Madam Chair, you are live.
Thank you so much. As soon as I get an agenda up, we will get going. Wonderful. Great. Thank you. We'll go ahead and get started. All right. It is 5:02 p.m. Let's go ahead and call the December 6th, 2023 Quality of Life Committee meeting to order. If I can please get a roll call.
Counselor Chavez,
Here.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Here.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
He is running about 10 to 15 minutes late, but he will be here.
Counselor Villarreal,
Present.
Chair Cassett.
I am here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Item R is being removed by staff. That is for the record. It's a request for approval of a budget adjustment resolution to allocate FY 23 gross receipts tax revenue earned over budgeted estimates to increase the city manager's budget in the amount of $175,000 to provide salary and benefits for the Office of Equity Inclusion OEI Director position. Apparently this is not ready and will come to us at a later date. Other than item R, are there any other changes from staff or the committee? Yeah,
No
we're
other-
there.
No changes, Madam.
Okay, can I get a
Changes from community development either.
wonderful,
To
thank you.
approve.
As amended?
Second,
Wait, okay.
as amended.
Who's moving to approve and who's seconding?
Go for it.
Motion to approve as.
To approve as
and a
amended.
second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on. Okay, moving to approval of the consent agenda. And hey, I didn't see Loretta there. I will let you go ahead and do all the things that you do. Hi, Loretta. Loretta,
Hello,
can you let
everyone.
us know what items were pulled from consent?
Absolutely. Item E was pulled by Counselor Chavez for a reason she will be recusing herself. So item H was pulled
Is-
by Council
E is an elephant.
E as in elephant. And item H as in horse was pulled by Counselor Villarreal. Item K was pulled by Counselor Villarreal. Item N was pulled by Counselor Garcia and Counselor Villarreal. Item O was pulled by Counselor Michael Garcia. It's the minutes. Item T was pulled by Counselor Michael Garcia and Counselor Villarreal. Item Q was pulled by Madam Chair Cassett. And that is it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there any items that committee would like to pull at this time? And if not, can I get a motion to approve as amended?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second. May I please have a roll call?
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Chair Cassett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to our presentations. We do have two today. Our first is a Tourism Santa Fe progress report. We have Director Randy Randall here to present. And Randy, I will hand it over to you. Oh, hey, Jordan. Good. Jordan's here too.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Randy Randall, Executive Director of Tourism Santa Fe. Jordan Gunther is here with me. He's our Director of Marketing. Our two other division or whatever we're called now, section heads. David Carr, the Director of Sales, is on vacation, and Melanie Moore, who is the head of the convention, Community Convention Center, had another commitment. So we're going to see if we can get this on the screen somehow. I see it here. Want to do it too? No. No, I'm good.
Okay.
So we've got our presentation up here. The fiscal 23 results for tourism, as we state here, was really remarkable. It was a fantastic recovery from the pandemic. Santa Fe welcomed just shy of 3 million visitors. 2/3 of them were from out of state. 55% of those out of state visitors were from our neighboring states of, Arizona, Texas, Colorado are the major drivers there. And lodgers tax collections were record setting at 17.86, unaudited, unofficial number. That surpassed fiscal year 22 by 10.9%. And the best in the pre-pandemic year was about 12.4 million. That was in fiscal year 19, and that was 44% less than what we did this last year. So the increase was absolutely remarkable. If we look at occupancy, average rate, and RevPAR year over year, comparing fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 23, you can see that we also increased our occupancy by a little bit, going from 66.7 to 69.5. The downtown improved from a 66.9% occupancy to a 70.8. And Cerrillos Road moved from 65.8 up to 68.0. And in each case, we had increases in both average rate and RevPAR. RevPAR, is revenue per available room, as opposed to average rate is the revenue per occupied room. Here again, you can see the lodgers tax and the way it breaks down between the hotels at 13.7 million and the short-term rental lodgers tax at 4.1 million. Again, both of those numbers were up from fiscal year 22. And fiscal year 22 was a really good year too. We only lost the first 4 months of that. The visitation, who's actually coming to Santa Fe, you can study this at your own. The interesting part is, from an age standpoint, 60% are between 25 and 64. And just a little bit more are in that 45 to 64 than the 25 to 44. We've made it a significant effort to move the average age of our visitor down. The last study we did in 2015 that was slightly flawed because we were restricted by who we could really survey. While we had 78,000 responses, most of them stayed in the downtown area. And the average age then was 59. We're thinking now that the average probably is down around 53 or 54. So it's been a significant movement downward. Income, no surprise, 46% have a family income of over $100,000. Households, almost 50% are a household of just two. Educational level, 51% have, or 49% have some kind of college or graduate degree, but 50% don't, 51% don't. And from an ethnicity standpoint, 72% are white. Visitation, where they come from. Denver is our strongest city market at almost 11%. Dallas, almost equal to Denver. Phoenix, Houston, and Los Angeles round out the top 5 markets that we currently draw from. Colorado Springs, you see, is down there at number 7, almost equal to what we get from Austin, Texas, which is kind of interesting. It's a nice drive down. It's 4 hours. And we have focused more on Colorado Springs because of the growth that they've seen in their marketplace, as well as continuing to focus on Denver. 8 years ago, Phoenix didn't make the top 10 list. And now it's number 3 on the list, which is also kind of interesting. No surprise from a state standpoint, Texas is number 1, Colorado's number 2. Just there's so many cities in Texas. Monthly volume by visitors. This is kind of a confusing report, I think, but what's really interesting is to see that purple line that starts in May of last year. And now we've moved from a fiscal year, now we're looking at calendar year data. And April was when the governor let up on the pandemic restrictions. In May, you can see just took off, it zoomed and continued on through the entire calendar year. I think part of it was pent-up demand, but I think we can take some credit for that occurring because during the pandemic, we ran a continuing reminder to our strong markets that Santa Fe was here, that we were going to be here for them when the pandemic was reduced and that they could travel. And so we kept that message alive in their minds, and we think it was some dollars that we spent very well to stay in front of our guests. A few kind of interesting did you knows. On an average day in Santa Fe, there are 4,366 out-of-state visitors on our streets. 3,505 people are planning their visit any given day coming to Santa Fe. 85 visit one of our visitor centers, and we engage just over 1,000 people via our Facebook account. We also have 2.5 million people seeing a piece of earned media covering Santa Fe. Earned media, you know, is the public relations side of what we do. And we are in front of 2.5 million people every day. 2,700 people watch a promotional video about Santa Fe on our YouTube channel. 343,000 are reached via our paid media, and about 15 people join the Margarita Trail on a daily basis. So it's kind of interesting to think about 2.5 million people seeing our earned media, and we spend about, between payroll and our contract, probably $250,000 to $300,000 on that effort. And the advertising effort is $2 million, and we reached 342,000 people. But we need both. Publications that we produce on an annual basis: the Santa Fe Visitors Guide, Santa Fe Dining Guide, and the Meeting Planner Guide. This past year, we've also brought out a brochure on flamenco, and we're taking ownership of flamenco in northern New Mexico, and in fact, all of New Mexico, saying we're the flamenco capital of New Mexico. And we'll be, this next year, we'll be updating the trail map that we've been using, and it's really way out of date. It was produced by another party, but we'll be doing the update on it. And we'll be moving ahead with the brochure on the south side to highlight what people can do on if they want to explore the south side, because we think it's something that many of our repeat visitors, and we do close to 70% repeat visitation to Santa Fe, maybe haven't found yet, and it will be adding some new experiences for them with the south side brochure. This is a video that we did. Do we know if this is going to work? Should I hit this button? I don't think it's going to work. Huh? Well, I didn't.
A Verbo is for sharing all kinds of moments. From old bombs.
Every experience is different for everyone who visits Santa Fe. The same can be said for the Margarita Trail. Here, every journey is different. Every trip is one of a kind. Every sip unique from the one before, and distinctive from the one that follows. The best part about the trail, there's no right or wrong way. There's just your way. the Santa Fe Margarita Trail. Get your passport or download the app.
We use that, we use that video on our website, and we are making it available to the agency, and we may be actually using it in a few regional cities to create some excitement about Santa Fe. See if we can move this ahead again. From a sales standpoint, 77 definite groups in calendar year 23 versus 49 in 2022. That's the main number here. And along with that, the additional definite room nights. But you can see the group business was slower coming back than the leisure business. The other thing was our hotels in calendar year 22, frankly, weren't very interested in having group business. Our leisure demand was so strong and so high, and they were getting such a strong average rate that they were turning us down. They were saying, no, we don't want that business. Now they're finding that as that demand, which was a pent-up demand, is reducing, they're becoming more interested in servicing the groups and having the groups again. In the city right now, La Fonda is running the highest occupancy, and they were the first to come back into the group business, and it's showing the benefit of that decision that they made. From a community convention center, in year to date, in 2023, this is for the calendar year, it's had 250 days of use. So something's happening over there on 250 days. We've had 107 social events there, weddings, quinceañeras, the like, 21 citywide meetings, 9 art shows, and 83 city meetings. On the staffing, we are having trouble keeping our lower rate, lower pay jobs filled. As we get them filled, as soon as somebody offers them 50 cents more, they move on. And so the comp and class study, we were hoping would address this issue, but based on what I've seen so far, I think it does not. And so we're going to have to work with something in order to keep those positions filled. And the other thing we wanted to point out is that Melanie has really been working hard on energy conservation for us. And we've seen a significant reduction in our electric costs over there. Gas went up, but that's mainly a fact of last winter being really cold and the rates going up so high on the gas. From a marketing and PR standpoint, we do now have a creative office. Jordan's the one who put our slideshow together for us, but Cullen Curtis and Taylor Washburn have joined us. Cullen's talents are she used to be editor of a local publication, and Taylor is our social media and video person. We launched the official dining guide. We won a Silver Telly Award for our brand, which is a region in the regional category, but it's a national award. I don't know about this Jebbit thing. We created digital advertising offers through santafe.org, allowing them to work with us. We're doing a co-op program with some of our partners. Worked with SWAYA for 8 members of the press for that Centennial Indian Market, and it did generate $750,000 worth of earned media. We went to Los Angeles with the New Mexico Tourism Department, and we are now back in the trade show business. We mentioned IPW and Media Marketplace here, but we're back up to about 14 different trade shows that we go to promote the city. Few of the accolades across the bottom that are absolutely stellar. We were ranked 7th best art city in the world. Travel and Leisure just came out with a list of 24 best places to go in 2024, and Santa Fe was 2 in the United States. The rest were worldwide destinations. We're listed with Madagascar and the likes of that. Ranked the number 2 small best city, ranked the number 2 favorite city. That's the Travel and Leisure and the Condé Nast reader polls. And we've now been ranked by both of those magazines as one of the best Christmas cities to go to. From a strategic planning standpoint, you can read through this. There's really no change from what we are have done for the last couple of years. I did want to point out, it's in yellow at the bottom, that the first 3 months of fiscal 24, we have seen a downward trend in lodgers tax collections for those 3 months, 6% in the hotels and 21% in short-term rentals. What I think may have happened there is Airbnb and VRBO have been collecting. They collect and remit the short-term rental income for about 75% of the short-term rentals now. I think that they've been collecting and remitting on behalf of county short-term rentals. And now that the county has a short-term rental program going, they have switched those the funds over, and they're giving them to the county. We have no way to know because they don't tell us who they send funds for, but we're thankful for what we got. But I think that's one of the reasons that we're down by that 21%. Our audience is still the same audience. We're talking to 25 to 75-year-olds, mainly the 35 plus. We try to talk to an average household income of 157,000. Family, we're continuing to focus on families and the LGBTQ. Our segments are movers and shakers, network neighbors, upper crust. These segments are what the agency uses to determine what the best digital tools are for us to reach out to talk to these people. And our geographics, the only difference on our markets that we're doing is we've added San Francisco and Silicon Valley as a target market. The state has gone into it with about a $3 million campaign, and we're just piggybacking on what they do. Our media budget, and that 1.25 million is our actual spend. The total media budget's 2 million, which includes the agency fees and production and other costs that are related. And we're part of what we'll be talking about in just a couple of minutes is adding actually 877 instead of the 835, adding $877,000 to that media budget. With that little bit of a downward trend, 6% in our hotels, 8% citywide. We think this extra spending is going to be critical to ensuring that we are able to maintain our market share. Here's some of just a few examples of print creative. We've got some brand videos that you can take a look at when you'd like to. And we do thank you for asking to have an update on what Tourism Santa Fe has been up to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Randy. Really, really appreciate you guys being here and telling us about everything that's happening. Committee, any questions, comments? Councilman Vitarell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Director Randall, for being with us. This was actually very helpful to have this kind of information presented to us. I think it just gives a snapshot of what's happening. And I appreciated the demographics because it was actually surprising on some level of the different areas that you presented, especially around age and income. I think that was a good mix of folks, more so because I think people tend to think that it's an older, like above 65, and this is saying something different. And also, yeah, I think it was just a good mix. I was curious if you all had some insight, because I was looking at the ethnicity, and that clearly is focused on one group, which is white. And so, and then there's a little bit of an uptick for Hispano or Hispanic. And then the other ethnicities that are listed are Black and Asian. And I'm just curious if you all are thinking about ways to diversify our visitors and how you would market differently, or if you're considering that. So I don't know if Jordan wants to share any insights, since you are the marketing director.
Come up, Jordan. From my standpoint, we really target areas, geography more than we do people. And so because they are more likely to come here. And I think if you look at our neighboring states, I think that's why the ethnicity is what it is coming down. But Jordan, you.
It's a great question. And the only thing I would layer on, we don't, from a paid media standpoint and how we target through paid media versus the demographics that actually show up through the data set that we provided through Datafy, we don't actually target paid media by demographics. It's mostly based on psychographics. So as opposed to an age, it's more of a mindset. It's all the things that make Santa Fe, from history and culture, outdoor activities to our amazing cuisine. And so it's the people that really kind of align through certain publications on a psychographic level, much more so than demographic. But we have seen some shifts in the demographics, both age and ethnicity over the course of it.
I guess I was just curious because it is how you message things that attracts certain people and certain demographic and ethnicities too. So, you know, if something's in Spanish, that potentially could change. And I'm just curious, I guess, about ways to look at that differently. Because we don't know who would want to necessarily visit Santa Fe because maybe we haven't reached them yet. So I guess I have a different mindset of like trying different things. I know you will want to stick with obviously things that work, that have a return on investment, but I'm always thinking about trying different aspects. So
We had a great kind of heads up request idea from our visitor center staff this week. And so we produced our annual visitor guide, which Randy pointed out on one of the previous slides. And apparently they have requests, not very often, but at least maybe a couple times a month for the visitor guide to be in Spanish. And so that's something that we'll look into as well. The production as a whole is quite intense and quite labor intensive, producing a singular visitor guide in English. So it's something that we would have to have translated, obviously, and make sure that we're working through from a production standpoint and flow and everything makes sense. But I think that's another great opportunity that we will look into to provide some diversity in how we mess.
yeah. Do you, oh, I don't know if Randy wanted to say more.
Well, I just wanted to say, we'd probably do that in a digital version first and see what it can attract and how much it gets used. But we have just recently also determined that with some support from the state, we think Mexico is a market we could move into much stronger. And the head of tourism for the country was here just a month ago and indicated that he's going to be working on a flight from Guadalajara, no, not Guadalajara, from anyway, one of the Mexican cities in, might have been Chihuahua, into Albuquerque. And if we were to get that, then there would make some sense to be able to market down in Mexico.
So is there anything right now that you all use in terms of platforms that are in Spanish?
So our website, santafe.org, translates into Spanish, which is our primary advertising mechanism. our primary call to action for all of our advertising. So I would say yes. It's a little archaic. It's not, specific translated for each page, but it does have some usability functionality that will allow relatively concise translations.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think you'd be surprised if people actually use it and it actually makes sense and the translation is accurate. It makes a big difference, I think, for people. And speaking of the visitor's guide, I had a question about how businesses get to be in those guides. So the visitor's guide and the dining guide, maybe even the planner's guide. Is that do they have to pay a fee, or it's a membership, or how does that work?
Madam Chair, there is not a membership. We don't have any membership. It's an advertising fee. Full page is $8,000 in the visitor guide. In the dining guide, we only really allow restaurants to advertise in there. And for them, a full page in the dining guide's $500.
Thank you. And then the other question I had, you were talking about staffing issues, and Randy, you heard the presentation we had on the kind of financial outlook the other night. And I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts are, since you keep in touch and you can connect with the community in the tourism industry, and what the tourism and service industry has been, like how they've been affected by not just the economy, but also employment. If you could say a little bit about that.
Staffing is really difficult all over, and that's why it is so competitive. We're paying $16.50 for starting wage for our convention specialist, and our hotels are paying $20. And they're paying $20 because that's what it's taking. They're paying $20 and $25 for dishwashers in the kitchen. The wait staff, they make a lot of money, but it's the other staff that they're really having trouble and struggling. Some restaurants have reduced their days that they're open from 7 to 5 since the pandemic. There's one hotel in town that keeps 10% of its rooms vacant because it doesn't have enough housekeeping staff to ensure that they can turn them all over on a daily basis.
And has the industry talked about what they can do to support staffing?
There's
and-
discussion. We just, we need a little bit of a stronger base to come back in. I think, I honestly think that there were quite a few workers who left during the pandemic that may have been undocumented workers that were here. They had documentation, but they went back to Mexico, and I think that's hurt our labor forces as well.
From what I've heard, they're moving to Albuquerque because it's cheaper to live. So I think it's really the bigger issue about affordable housing and how it affects the service and tourism industry. And I'm sure some folks have made the adjustments, like you're saying, about increasing the wages, which I think will make a big difference
Or reducing the need for the staffing.
potentially, or doing things more efficiently, or but also treating workers well. I mean, from what I've heard in the tourism industry, even those folks that have longevity in their staff, it's because they actually treat them with respect. And so that's a big difference when you see the folks that don't have that kind of turnover. It's because they actually care about their employees, they care about their families, they care about actually, paid family leave or sick leave. And so all of those things, I think, are kind of the bigger picture that I see. And I'm just curious if the industry is adjusting to meet those needs. And yeah, I guess it's a larger question, but I guess I'm always thinking about, especially because we so much depend on tourism. And, the more we have affordable housing opportunities, I think the better off we are for tourism and the service
Absolutely.
industry.
And the businesses who don't make those adjustments are the ones that are going to fall behind. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And one suggestion, I think it's really cool when you have your other staff come together and present with you so that we can see them and hear about their expertise. And, we like seeing you too, Randy, but it's always really cool to see and have your other staff present on some of the things that they do. So I'm just making a suggestion to bring your team and
Totally.
let them share in the presentation.
Yeah, I'm sorry, David and Melanie couldn't be here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, comments from members of the committee? I have just a couple follow up on. When you said that the trail map is being updated, is that the Margarita trail map or just, is there another trail map?
Madam Chair, it would be the Santa Fe trails,
Okay.
the hiking trails.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So looking into that outdoor experience.
Absolutely.
Component and the outdoor rec that we were discussing earlier today at Economic Development Advisory Committee. So, and then, you know, as you and I have discussed, really looking forward to seeing that South Side guide. And I think it would be interesting when that's ready to actually bring that as a presentation here. Because there's also a lot of conversation around how we highlight to our local population the businesses that are available on the South Side. And it's been a big focus with the Chamber of Commerce, with Southside Feria, and with economic development. So let us know when that's ready. And I know you and I still need to sit down so that we can talk about what's going on there. And but I would love to have that highlighted here when you guys are ready to present.
I will, Madam Chair. Thank you. And if that guide was for the resident, it probably would be a little bit different than what we have for the visitors. So as we're discovering that guide and building it, we may be able to do two versions of it and print it and provide it to the chamber, because I don't think they'd be able to print it and make it available, but we'd be happy to do that.
Right, or part of some of the work that we've been doing in economic development. That'd be wonderful to continue to have that collaboration. So thank you. I appreciate that. I'm curious about, you know, you mentioned that breaking into the Mexico market. Do we actively advertise internationally at all at this juncture? Do we have an idea of how many international travelers we are seeing? Because I know that it's not zero.
No, Madam Chair, it's typically been about 7% of our visitation is international. We do not do any advertising for international as a city, nor do we as a state do any international advertising.
Okay. Why-
For us, it's because of budget. I mean, we can barely spread it through the markets where we know that there's good, strong response to our advertising. For the state, they used to do a program. I remember years ago that they had a pretty aggressive effort internationally. We did about 7 or 8% visitation as a state. They cut out the program. We did about 7 or 8% visitation as a state. And so they just never went back to it because there was no proof that it was actually generating the value for the dollars that they were spending. And they used to operate on a much more limited budget than they do now.
Okay, so yeah, makes sense. It's not worth the buck. What about with our earned media though? I would, you know, when we're talking about Condé Nast and we're talking about Travel and Leisure, those are primarily US based publications, although I do think that they have probably like a UK version. So are we getting some visibility that way?
Madam Chair, we do get about, I would guess, 10 or 15% of our earned media is international. It's in publications and particularly in England. But also we've had some in Germany. Where else? So
For the public, because he was not on the mic, it was Europe, Germany, some in Spain.
yeah, so would be some in Spain and some in, where'd you say? Yeah, Mexico as well. We've had a good bit in Mexico lately.
Okay.
But we do generate about $25 million a year in earned media value.
Okay, wonderful. Good. And this will actually kind of dovetail nicely into arts and culture. I actually met with one of the flamenco companies here yesterday. And we were really having a discussion about not just the performances that they're putting on and the dinner show that they're putting on, but also how we continue to cultivate flamenco as part of our culture as opposed to just kind of bringing it in. One of the things that I always, want to balance with Santa Fe is that, we do have this tourism focus, but we sometimes forget to, maybe not forget, we don't choose to grow that culture that is so integral to why people come to Santa Fe. And so we were talking about, them trying to provide programming for our kids. And so that this actually is something that is very authentic and that we're not losing. I've had this conversation with a number of different organizations, that that are part of that art of Santa Fe, not just the visual arts, but the performing arts of Santa Fe. And so, it's very timely. And, we actually did talk about some of the arts and culture grants. We talked about some of the children and youth grants and how we might be strategic and how we are, utilizing those so that what makes Santa Fe, we're not creating a Disneyland. One of the most important things about Santa Fe is the authenticity of this community. And I know that a lot of people have started to see that, are we losing that? And how will that impact tourism? How will it impact who's coming here? And obviously we know tourism is our bread and butter. To Councilman Villarreal's point of, so many people can't afford to live here anymore. And what that actually does to the shape and the character and the demographics of our city. So I think that that's something that, as we look at, this is probably more in the arts and culture realm. So again, dovetails nicely with what we're about to be discussing. But as we think about what Santa Fe is and how we present Santa Fe, but also how we aren't, to an extent, Santa Fe's done this for a long time. We have created a world that's been, but I do think that there can be some attention. I'm really excited to hear about really highlighting flamenco. But how do we also continue to make sure that that is, sorry, I'm getting buzzed out. That is something that remains authentic and that we are supporting it because it supports us. And so I think that's going to be really crucial moving forward.
Totally agree with you that the whole basis of all of our marketing is on authenticity. And, but by helping flamenco become financially stable, we think it will protect it. And, they can't afford to produce the brochures and to do the distribution that we can do for them. There was no cost to any of the organizations to be in that brochure. We did it for the very reason you're talking about, to ensure that we can keep that authentic component of our culture here and alive, and to make sure that both our visitors and our residents are aware of the level of flamenco that exists in the city, because it's amazing how few people really understand the depth that we have here.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely happy to hear that that was something that we were able to provide for them without a cost. And obviously that's just one example, the support that we give to SWAYA and all of, our various markets and how we continue to really think about those pieces, something that we want to be mindful of.
But keeping them authentic, that is critical.
Well, thank you so much again. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll see you again soon. And as Councilman Villarreal mentioned, this is really, I thought this was really helpful to see this data, to see this laid out. So something that I know I'll want to continue to be getting at least an annual update. I think this is really good for us to see. So thank you.
You bet. And this is good timing. Coming up to the end of our calendar year and halfway into our fiscal year, it's really good timing for this kind of update.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
No, thank you. All right. As I mentioned, we're moving into an arts and culture update now. We have our new director, Chelsea Johnson. We also have Charla as well, and we will pass it on over to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Is there anything? Yeah. Hello, counselors, Madam Chair, colleagues, committee. Thank you so much for Yes, thank you so much for hosting us here today. This is our first presentation to Quality of Life. I'm Chelsea Johnson, the new Director of Arts and Culture.
Carla Russell, the new Deputy Director of Arts and Culture.
Yeah, so we have a pretty concise update here. We'll touch on the various slides that we've prepared for you and leave lots of room for questions and conversations. All right, so just a quick overview of who we are. We provide leadership by and for the city to support arts and cultural affairs, and we recommend policies and programs that develop and promote artistic excellence in our community. As we mentioned, we're a new staff, we're a growing staff. We're in the process of hiring a community gallery manager, and we'll be adding another project specialist to bring our staff from 1 in August to 5 in 2024. And here are some of the primary initiatives that we've been engaged with throughout the fall of 2023. Okay, so first of all, the airport is something that landed in our laps upon arrival. So we've been brought in to craft the sort of art experience of the airport so that when people land in Santa Fe or when they're departing from Santa Fe, they have a really strong sense of place and of Santa Fe as a world-class art city. So our guiding theme focuses on sort of 3 main ideas: present, evoking a sense of place very strongly, iconic, touching on those very famous visual elements that immediately kind of signal, oh, you are here, this is classic Santa Fe. And then evolving, that we're a city that's very much in the present and the future as well, and have a cutting edge contemporary art scene here. And some of the collaborators we've brought on board, the Santa Fe Gallery Association is doing quarterly curated exhibits in the airport. Meow Wolf is creating some cool installations. The Santa Fe Botanical Gardens we're in talks to bring some native landscaping, both inside and outside. New Mexico's public art program is putting sculptures outside the airport, and we're going to continue conversations with tourism, Fly Santa Fe, and other city stakeholders.
Thank you. Okay, so just a little touch on the grand opening that's planned for January 2024, which is fast approaching. Our first phase is what Chelsea just mentioned, but we're teaming up with city and community partners to prepare the terminal space, which you get a little peek here. It's the new main gate, or the new terminal that's opening. And this is one of the wall spaces. You get to see James and I, the airport manager, for scale, but we have this wall space available for us that we're going to be working with the Santa Fe the Santa Fe Gallery Association for quarterly curated events or curated exhibitions on that particular space. And then our next steps would be enhancing art and culture and the elements in the original terminal, as well as doing some wayfinding on your way to the airport in and around the airport, and some of the exterior spaces with additional new public art that has been, that was contracted prior to our arrival, but having those places presented, or those pieces presented at the airport as well.
Yeah, and we've been in some really interesting talks for other design elements too, both for this phase and for phase 2 with an additional expansion. Things like a Kiva fireplace, decorative. We can't have open flames in the airport. We're speaking with historical preservationist Gary Mokino about highlighting the indigenous history and present of Santa Fe as well, and Agapoge also being acknowledged as part of where people are arriving. So arts and economic development. The Arts and Economic Prosperity Report just came out a couple of weeks ago. And as you can see here, arts and culture is a huge economic driver for Santa Fe, generating a lot of money, jobs, personal income, and tax revenue. And just next week on December 14th, we'll be going to Albuquerque to do a press conference with partners from the state and other New Mexico communities to talk about what that report means and how we really want to show that off. We're also working with the Office of Economic Development on the Creative Industries grant that we received from the state, the first ever issuing of this grant, $100,000. So we're creating a community navigator program to offer resource fairs and help boost creative entrepreneurship. We love artists. We care so much about artists and makers in Santa Fe. And what we want to do is help provide them resources to find paths to financial wellness and to be able to sustain their practice through their art. So that's what we're really hoping to focus on with the Creative Industries Grant. And those events will take place February through June of 2024. Thank you.
And then we have our reimagining of Midtown. It's one of our major projects currently in arts and culture. And we're working with, different city departments, local experts, and community partners to responsibly identify and steward the inventory that is still housed on the campus, and how we can disperse that through either the teen center or, Santa Fe schools who could use some of this great inventory that's still there. A lot of music assets, a lot of film assets. And so we're thinking about, very thoughtful ways that we can use these inventories to uplift our city partners, our cities, other city departments. And then we will be retaining, we're going to do an inventory on which we need to retain, which site-specific assets can be preserved in the building, and then just being a part of the larger Midtown reimagining and how we move forward along with the master plan for the site, and it being a really beautiful and iconic space for arts and culture, and the future of Santa Fe, or the center of Santa Fe.
All right, so here we get to kind of our bread and butter, our core projects. We do funding for arts organizations and artists, including our cultural investment funding. That application cycle just opened up on December 1st for the intent to apply. And in this fiscal year, we're funding 44 arts organizations in Santa Fe with grants to help promote their outreach and their marketing. And we do hope to keep expanding this program so we can continue to fund even more. Not everybody who applies is able to receive the funding due to the limitations of what we have, and we really want to distribute that as widely as possible to all Santa Feans. The other exciting initiative we have going is the Art is the Solution Fund, which the Arts Commission initiated last year for the first time. And that's 5 $10,000 grants to local artists doing projects with a theme. This year's theme is structural inequity in Santa Fe. And those projects are expected to have a strong community engagement component, public facing. So we're reviewing those applications right now. They just come in on Monday, and those awardees will be announced in the next couple of weeks. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about the Poet Laureate since I've been spearheading that too. You may have seen this featured in the New Mexican. There have been some really wonderful articles about this initiative. We've switched the Poet Laureate to a calendar year instead of a fiscal year. So we're about to appoint a new one. We just, again, reviewing the applications that just came in, and same with the city historian has also moved to that. And that is currently open to applications for the next cycle with the theme of cultural storytelling. I'm going to speak about it. Okay. Ojos Diferentes is another project to keep your eye on. That was a collaboration between our city historian, Valerie Rangel, and Refract Studios, and 10 local artists and creators. And that is a very cool project that takes Valerie Rangel's historic story maps around the city, brings in artists to imagine sort of a visual piece that goes with various sites around town. And then Refract Studios created augmented reality. It's like Pokemon Go for grown-ups, for intellectuals. So you snap a QR code and this 3D vision appears in front of you, reciting a poem, or it reimagines a statue, or it does, indigenous spaceships are rising from the river. They're very imaginative. They're very cool. You can go to their website to get a preview of them, and there's a map around town where you can go check those out. And that's something that they are planning, I think, to continue expanding throughout the city. It recently won a huge award, the 2023 Moonshot Award. And it was a finalist for a Webby Award as well, up against companies like Google and Meta. So this tiny little studio is really punching above its weight, and it'll be a subject of a forthcoming Pasatiempo feature.
Thank you. And our other notables, the community gallery, as we mentioned, we hosted an exhibit of Gilberto Guzman's paintings this fall, and thanks to Councilor Villarreal for suggesting the exhibit, and we had wonderful turnout and recognition of the artist. And then we're also in the process of, requesting, we've received about 15 applicants for the gallery manager. So we anticipate having that person onboarded by the end of the year. So that will be something to get the community gallery back open and receiving the public again. And we also have our first exhibit that's actually scheduled already. It's the UNESCO Creative Cities exhibit with artists. It's an artist exchange between Santa Fe and artists from Cuba. And that will be taking place in the community gallery in February. So it's going to be one of our first exhibits to reopen the gallery space.
There's a cool component of that too, where there will be embroidery kits distributed to youth so they can practice and learn culture embroidery themselves. And those pieces will also be able to be on display in the gallery. So we're using that as a community engagement initiative as well. We've also done some wonderful cultural event sponsorships, most recently the first ever powwow on the plaza and Creative Santa Fe's Pechacucha Night at site in November. We have more coming up in the spring as well. And I think that wraps up, that pretty much touches on, the major things we've been working on. So we welcome any of your questions.
Well, thank you so much. And you guys are both relatively new, so thank you to being our new team here in Arts and Culture. Really excited to be working with you. To the committee, questions, comments from y'all? Counselor Michael Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. One quick clarification question around the Midtown assets. And Rich, maybe this is for you. Had we not inventoried the current, what would be considered art assets? I mean, that's a broad range, given the collection that we have housed at the campus right now. Hadn't we already previously inventoried?
And we're going deeper now that we're doing RFPs for disposition of those legacy buildings, Visual Arts Center, production studios, and the theater. So they're going to go further to say what gets donated, what gets sent to the public school systems, what gets sent to the community college, what do we recycle or upcycle. So they have the assets, they work with Public Works on it. And so now they're going to dig in deeper as a specific project to let's get into action. This is now just sitting there.
Gotcha. And I guess quick follow-up to that is through the process that I guess now your team is going through is consideration of citywide use, city government use, taken into consideration, whether it's City Hall. I mean, the art we have here, let's rotate that on a rotating basis and not necessarily liquidate the assets, put them all up for auction. We can have a rotating. I mean, I remember we used to have a Tommy Massioni collection in the hall. I'm actually, what happened to the Massionis? Those are priceless to us Santa Feans. And so just wondering what the plan is, because I think the collection is so vast, so great that I'd hate for us to just say, let's liquidate it and auction it. Understand there might be some where it's unusable and it's better to get some return versus just having it sit there be unused. So that I guess into consideration, whether it's other facility use or even at Fogelson, I know that that's the vision, is to have that a 21st century library, community center, gathering space, whatever it is. And we want to make sure that we don't kick ourselves in the foot to say, darn, we had a world-class book collection and we offloaded it. So.
Thank you, Counselor. That is one of the main reasons why we're doing a deeper dive, so we understand the inventory and then can have an implementation plan that speaks to city departments, city partners first and foremost, because the last thing we want to do is to, auction off pieces or to dispose of any artworks. And so that is our, main objective, is to see where we can distribute this, vast resources amongst city and city departments and city partners as the teen center, Santa Fe schools, things like that. That's one of the main reasons why we need to do this deeper dive, to understand the inventory and its relevance. Some of the equipment may appear outdated, but it could be very useful in a school because it's not the newest technology, but it is something, a learning opportunity for the, students in the various school systems. So that's one of the main reasons why we're doing this deeper dive.
Yeah, and I can assure you, our preservation instincts are very strong. And we, just coming back to our mission of serving all Santa Feans and really helping uplift and sustain art and artists here, we want every resource at Midtown that can be used by Santa Feans and by, city departments and agencies as well to be brought to the people who can use it the most. And liquidation is like the very last resort, and only for those things that truly no one wants.
Well, thank you for being so diligent with the process. I really appreciate that. No other questions, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you so much, Counselor. Any other questions, comments from the committee? Councilman Villarreal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I always have questions. Thank you, ladies, Director Johnson and Deputy Director Russell, and good to see you getting in your sea legs into your department and presenting the information. I I'm excited to hear about the different pieces and the airport. I always think about Albuquerque actually has a really cool exhibit when you first walk in, or different exhibits that change, and they're about local people. And I really appreciate that because it's highlighting people that live in the city that you're visiting or you're going through the airport. So I hope we can also emulate that in some way now that we have the new space at the airport. The question I had, let's see, I was curious about, well, one thing for sure, I didn't get to see the Ojos Diferentes um project, and I'm just curious how one would get to see some of those well, it says isn't it a reality? You said I guess I'm just wondering was there a launch? Did I miss that? I'm trying to figure out why I didn't know about this. I knew it was happening, and then it sounded like it happened, and I would love to see it if it's still active, or how does that work?
It's there and it's out there. Yeah, we came in and it had already, the first 8 pieces have already been installed, and there have been some walking tours. If you go to their site, you can look at a map, and they're just QR codes.
When you say their site, we go to Ojos
Ojos Diferentes
Diferentes?
site.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And you need to download Snapchat to use it. Part of their expansion plans are to create just, I know, same. It's the only thing I've used Snapchat for. But their plan is to create, they've applied for more grant funding from many different sources, and they want to create a specific app, so you don't have to download Snapchat to look at the thing. But that was the technology that was available to them at the time. But yeah, it's still out there to go see, and there are more being added. They did have an exciting launch party for the Creative Santa Fe Experience Conference
Right.
in mid-November, but there'll be more coming from them for sure.
Excellent. And then I was curious about, there's different grant programs. I know that the previous leadership was really trying to have more accessibility for funding and different ideas. And I like this initiative about that just got launched. I think it was not launched, but it's funding. The application's open now, and it's around structural inequities in Santa Fe. And maybe you could say a little bit more about that and how that came to be.
Yeah, that is in its second year. So the Arts Commission, I think, asked for that funding for and crafted that initiative last year. So in year 1, the theme was water and displacement, and that closed in fiscal year 23. And so then this year they chose the theme structural inequity, and we came on board with that already kind of in place.
Great.
And have just worked to get the word out there. We received 28 applications for the 5 grants.
Wow, good. There was also a grant that you all, well, the previous staff tried to do where they had a certain amount of money per district. And it seems like that was
No, that's still
that's still
there.
gonna-
You each have $10,000 per your district.
right now.
So yeah, come talk to us.
Did anyone know about that? Because I was not aware of that.
It's in our budget, and we would love to help you spend it.
Well, we knew that it was budgeted, but I think it was more when it was gonna start going into play, like when we could actually access it. Because at this point, maybe it's because you all hadn't been in place yet with your positions. I do remember we approved it, but I was trying to figure out, like, when do we get to
I'm
have
I'm
some
glad you asked.
insight?
Let's get it going.
Well, I have 3 weeks, so so all right, I might have some ideas. Okay, well, thanks for that.
Just to say, yes, we welcome your ideas. So even in 3 weeks, we can still think about how we can incorporate that into the next counselors, that it's coming on board. And just the idea of the project in itself, we can still, hopefully implement something like that. So we welcome your ideas and everyone else on the council.
I actually may just connect with the counselor-elect for my seats, and I think we probably have some synergy there, so I'll talk to her about that. Thanks so much. I don't have any further questions. I just see the connectivity of things happening in your division, department, and also tourism. So I hope there's some collaboration there and promotions. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Councilwoman. Any other questions, comments? you guys heard what I had to say previously. I did hear some positive feedback, so I did want to give her some credit, even though she has moved departments. But somebody did mention that the change in the RFPs that Armenia Tapia really led was extremely helpful in kind of bringing back in some of those local performing arts that are focusing on our kids. And so I wanted to give Armenia some credit, even though she has moved on to finance and is bringing her talents there. But I know she's left you in a good place there. And then, Counselor Chavez and I will be in touch with you guys soon about our district project. I think we're probably continuing some of the work we've been experimenting there. So thank you for having that in the budget. I think that is really crucial for how we start to distribute art throughout the city. I'm really happy to see some of the focus at the airport, at Midtown. I have frequently said, Santa Fe is an art city, and that refers to all of Santa Fe and not just the downtown area. And so that focus on how we continue to infuse and support the art throughout the entire city is really crucial. And so seeing some of these pockets of focus in districts 3 and 4 is really exciting. So thank you so much for your work there.
Thank you. For listening. Come talk to us anytime. We're very open to your input and your ideas, and we're really excited to carry on the good groundwork that's been laid for us and also to expand and develop new and exciting initiatives.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here. All right, rolling along into the consent agenda, we have a number of items pulled. The first one is item E, I believe. Yes, E is an elephant. Request for the approval of a third amendment to the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA work-based learning to reflect the City of Santa Fe living wage ordinance and to reallocate of $153,800 of project budget from bucket 5 dropout recovery internships to bucket 1 youth senior internships, increasing the number of student interns paid through bucket 1. I don't believe we have anybody here because it was just for a recusal. So Counselor Chavez, to you.
Thank you. I just need to recuse myself because I work for Santa Fe Public Schools.
Wonderful. And we will let you know when it is time to come back in. All right. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? And if not, can I have a motion?
To approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Can I please have a roll call?
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Chair Cassett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Counselor Michael Garcia, for grabbing Counselor Chavez. Next, we are going to be moving to item H. It's request for approval of a budget adjustment resolution bar for Tourism Santa Fe in the total amount of $1,733,593 to allocate FY23 lodgers tax revenue earned over budgeted estimates to increase budget for salaries, benefits, service contracts, advertising, and consulting for $1,133,593 and to increase budget for building structure and furniture fixtures for $600,000. And we have Randy Randall here to present and answer questions. And Councilman Villarreal, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director. We did talk about this in finance, and I think a lot of the components that we discussed are very important and we're supportive of. And I did want to put a plug after your presentation that funding source for those positions or to get more folks doing the convention work, that you consider raising the salaries or the wages, because I think we're losing folks because it's making $16 an hour. You can't live in Santa Fe. So you said you were going to consider that potentially. I don't know if you want to say any more about that.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman, originally I actually had adding 2 positions, and I had funding to increase the wage on all the rest of the positions. But it had to be removed because the comp and class study had not come out yet. And the this request couldn't have moved forward with, if that had been left in there.
And then when you mentioned the class and comp, although we haven't seen it, I think it may be presented to us next week. But just to, if it's showing that, I guess if it's showing a certain rate or wage, does that mean you all have to stay in that range and you can't stray from that?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman, yes. And for union employees, which many of these are, we also cannot bring anyone in at a rate higher than the current lowest rate that's being paid,
Because of compaction potentially.
as well as trying to ensure that if there is any differential based on seniority, that it's kept.
Mhm. Well, I hope you all can try your best for these positions. Because I think obviously if things are amping up, more activities happening at the convention center, you'll need more staff. And then the other thing we talked, or I talked about, and my colleagues as well, is the concern for the Zozobra special shape balloon. There were a lot of questions about who owns it, how do we manage it into the future? Because managing a hot air balloon is very expensive, and then the legality. And last night you and I talked briefly about it, but there was additional information that I don't know if you want to share, or if there's anything else you want to convey to us about that, or any clarity that you might have received from our last meeting.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman, thank you for that. We have, what I have worked with Ray Sandoval from Kiwanis, and what we proposed and are recommending to legal, but I have not heard back from legal yet, was that the balloon would be owned and managed by Kiwanis. The insurance would be provided by Kiwanis and by the third-party operator. There'd be a contract between Kiwanis, not the city, but Kiwanis, and a third-party operator like Rainbow Riders to actually fly the balloon. And then as far as ongoing operating costs, the annual costs of the contract with Rainbow Riders, as well as any repairs or whatever that needs to be done, that would be a partnership that we would fund from the city, from Albuquerque, and from Kiwanis.
So right now there's a breakdown. So it's a $300,000 cost, and we would contribute 125,000. It didn't say Albuquerque. You said it.
Albuquerque would contribute 150.
150.
And Kiwanis would put in whatever it takes to get to the final cost. But we're proposing that the ongoing maintenance, or the ongoing costs of operating the balloon would be a third.
Operating it would be.
A third from the city, a third from Kiwanis, and a third from Albuquerque.
And when you say operating, the use of the balloon? Or the
sorry.
cost of operating it?
The cost of paying Rainbow Riders to operate the balloon.
And Rainbow Riders, they do it for the pilots. They all have the same balloon. They have those large baskets. It's really to give people rides. And they make a lot of money off of it, but they also have a lot of expenses. So do you envision them, are we doing this for more, are we giving rides to folks? Is this like a way to?
Oh, Madam Chair, Councilwoman, the purpose of this is to market. It's an advertising ploy. And Rainbow Riders actually do operate some private balloons as well. They operate the state balloon under a contract. And to do about 7 or 8 events that they send the state balloon to, it's a cost of about $35,000 to $40,000.
Say that again, the amount?
35 to 40,000 is the range that I've heard to do about 8 events that they send the state balloon to. And so we'd use it in the same way. This balloon would not be flown here to give rides to people or charge people to fly on it. It would be used as an advertising tool not only at the Balloon Fiesta, it would obviously it would be tethered at at some point during the centennial for Zozobra, and probably going forward with Zozobra, it would fly here in Santa Fe. But beyond that, it would go to regional events.
And the other question I had was about Albuquerque. Do they have a balloon? Does Albuquerque have a balloon that they show at the Balloon Fiesta?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman, I don't think so. But I'm trying to remember now. There might have been a Visit Albuquerque balloon.
Madam Chair, Councilor Villarreal, Director Iverson, who used to work in Albuquerque, says that Albuquerque does have a balloon.
They do have.
Oh, good.
Hmm.
But again, this was funded by the city of Albuquerque, not Visit Albuquerque. And Visit Albuquerque is a third-party contractor to the city. So they'll have two balloons that they fly, I guess.
But the city of Albuquerque has a balloon, and Visit Albuquerque is the entity we partner with for this balloon. Is that what you said? Or the other way around?
Councilwoman, the other way around.
Okay. Well, I think there's some information we still need that we had asked about before governing body. And I think there was like the legal aspect and getting a legal opinion about it. And also just how you all and staff are planning on budgeting for the future costs of maintenance, and it's pretty hefty. So, I mean, we may be flush okay now, and that's why you want to utilize this money, but in the future, we don't know that. So just want us to be cognizant about that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, comments? I mean, we did want to talk about liability and getting information on liability. And, to Councilman Villarreal's point, what the maintenance costs over year over year. I mean, and is this, when we do have dips in the economy and lodgers tax, is this the first to go? And what happens if we don't maintain it for a down year?
Madam Chair, I think that, again, it's an advertising tool for us. So provided that it continues to fly and it serves its usefulness, it will be relatively an inexpensive program for us. If we were paying a third of $50,000, that's far less than the cost of an ad in most publications. So we think that it's going to be such a unique balloon that it'll get a lot of earned media exposure, as well as the people who are at the event. So I think we would continue to support it through our advertising efforts.
Okay. All right. Well, I know that we'll be having further conversation as we move forward to governing body and getting some of those questions answered. So still looking forward to those.
Madam Chair, we will have the answers to that on liability. And so far, what I've been told is that by having the ownership with Kiwanis, the insurance with Kiwanis, and the third-party operator, it will remove any liability from the city.
Okay, that's good to hear. Any other questions, comments? And if not, what are the wishes of the committee?
Move to approve.
Again.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Chair Cassett,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Randy. Moving on to item K, request for approval of the 2023 State Homeland Security Grant Program, SHSGP, Sub-Grant Agreement EMW-2023-SS-00015, New Mexico Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management for the purchase of hazardous material detection equipment for the fire department, equipment for the police department, special operations teams, and GIS support for the Office of Emergency Management in the total amount of $219,849. Performance period October 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2025. We have Brian Williams, our Director of Emergency Management, here to present. Councilman Villarreal, you pulled this, so over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Williams. I'm more curious about the kind of details of the amounts that this grant covers. And I think overall, I was also curious about the first project. It's talking about hazardous materials detection and monitoring. And you elaborated a little bit about that. And I was curious if that also include trainings and emergency preparedness for legacy waste of lanol. If any of the transport of lanol or waste that comes through Santa Fe, if that was a component of the training.
Counselor Chavez, or excuse me, Cassett and Counselor Villarreal. This is the hazardous material is a device. It's called a Fourier transform infrared detector. And what that means is that the fire department will be able to use a detector pointed at a hazardous material, and the Fourier transformation. Imagine listening to a symphony with a sine wave. What the Fourier transformation does is break it down to its component square waves, which imagine being able to then pick out how many trumpets, how many trombones, how many violins. And within the device, there is a catalog of over 10,000 materials. So this device will enable the fire department to, in cases where they don't know what it is, they can figure out what it is. Or in the cases where you have a mixed material spill, say, for example, a transport vehicle like a Amazon truck or a FedEx truck, where a bunch of different things get broken and mixed together. You now have, different chemistries. This will enable them to look at it and assess what the specific components are. This really isn't about the waste and the transportation of waste.
Okay, thank you for the clarity. I thought there was a piece in this request around training.
There is. The training component is for the the negotiation team.
Okay.
So this is
Crisis negotiation team.
Yeah, and Sergeant Wood is here if you'd like to query him.
Sure, yeah, I'd like to
specifically.
hear more about that. Since you're here, right?
Good evening.
Good evening.
What we are requesting for with this negotiations team is to attend the National Tactical Officers Association Crisis Negotiations Conference. The crisis negotiations team is an element within our special operations group. But when we deploy to high-risk situations, critical incidents, they marry along to us with our SWAT team, our other patrol officers and whatnot. They're a huge component of our success. We have, for example, a lot of incidents that we respond to are what we call barricaded situations. Imagine someone who's in distress in a crisis moment. They've taken their family hostage, if you will, and we want to end that peacefully, right? So having this component, this C&T team, as we call it, with us, they're able to establish dialogue, talk to the suspect, make sure people inside are safe, explore with them safe opportunities and safe resolutions. So that way this doesn't escalate into a lethal force encounter. Our crisis negotiation team is very good. They've been a huge component of our success in resolving so many of these situations peacefully. This conference that we're hoping to send them to would further that skill set. It's I believe a week-long conference, and it helps them to build their skill sets, get up-to-date trainings from around the country from other similar teams and trends that they're doing, legal trends, case laws. That way, when they're put in the spotlight on the scene and situations here in town, they're up to speed on case law, what they can talk about, what they can't do. So it's helping us to further our efforts in de-escalation of these crisis situations. So it would be a really great training for them to go to.
That's good. That's good to hear. And is Is that an annual conference?
This would be, yes.
And is there like hands-on kind of training that happens at the conference, or is it more like you're just sitting listening to people talk?
Well, I've not been to a crisis negotiations conference. I've been to tactical conferences. My background is in SWAT. So I imagine the same organization that I've gone to is putting on this conference. So they do have, like you said, classroom settings. And they do have also the ones I've seen and done debriefs where they go over incidents from across the country. They highlight what went right, what went wrong, and they incorporate a lot of feedback from the participants' ideas. And that way they can kind of teach and learn and guide peaceful resolutions. I imagine, based on my experience, they will break you up into separate groups. They'll present you with scenarios and they let you resolve those scenarios. And then after each group is done, you have maybe 30 minutes to an hour, excuse me, to come together with your, if you will, game plan, how to reach that peaceful resolution. Then you present it to the instructors. And then as a class, you go over your ideas, your plan, and what could have been done differently, or the success and whatnot.
Great. It's great to hear. It sounds like maybe peer-to-peer learning is also part of that.
Yes, exactly. Peer-to-peer learning with supervision from professional instructors who've done this for decades.
Thank you so much for those details. There was one other, it's a small amount, but I was curious, what's a throw phone again?
Okay. A throw phone is a portable telecommunication device. You guys have seen movies like Die Hard or whatnot, the best way to relate to this. It is a phone that is tethered to a cable, fiber optic cable, and we deploy it or place it into a crisis point. The subject or suspect in crisis that we're trying to negotiate out has the option of taking that phone and talking to our crisis negotiators on the other end of the phone. That phone that we're requesting is ability to record the conversation, has a camera capability on it as well. I think the one we're requesting, I'm thinking, is Bluetooth compatible. So this one might not even be a tether phone. I have it here. It's encrypted as well.
Do we use that often?
We do have one, and we do use it very often. The camera's a very valuable tool. It lets us know where the suspect is, how the hostages, if there's any hostages or any family members inside the domicile are, how they're doing, their status. So it has a lot of tools and resources that we use. And it offers the person that we're trying to get out in the crisis, it offers them that opportunity to talk, get off what they need to say, be heard. And a lot of times when we have the ability to slow down a situation, contain it, place that phone in there, let my crisis negotiators talk to these people, they're able to resolve it. They're able to calm them down, bring them back to reality. They haven't, given every situation is different. We know that, right? A lot of times it isn't as bad as they think it is. But they're afraid. And so they're going from, this is the worst day of my life. My CNT guys are able to bring them down and say, look, this is bad. This isn't the end of the world. Here's the way we can get through this. And they're quite honest with them. These are some of the things they're looking at. Is there potential recourse from what you did today? But it's not the end of the world. Your family's here. They care about you. So it instills that and it reminds them of that. It brings them down. And that act is what helps us to resolve it peacefully. I've been on the SWAT team in various capacities of almost 15, 16 years now. And this CNT element, it's a very valuable tool. Our success of not having to use lethal force is a large part of the success of CNT and the ability to have these tools.
Thank you for that information. I think that helps people to understand kind of how you and your team handle certain situations. And obviously you have to be skillful to be able to talk to somebody in crisis. So
they're very good at it. And
yeah.
I'm very proud of them, what they do. And these tools they'll help them to continue doing such a great job that they've done for the community. So that's why we're requesting these items, this training.
Thank you. And then I think that falls under your section is also the equipment for special operations.
Yes.
And if you could just say, I mean, they list certain things: ballistic shield, tactical search pole camera, rangefinder binoculars. I mean, Yeah, I guess
So
if you could talk a little bit more about that.
right now in our policy, we're mandated to wear ballistic shields. They're ceramic plate that goes over our chest and our back that protects us from high projectile caliber rounds. The current supply that we have has expired by the manufacturer recommendations. Right now, my guys are operating with expired ballistic protection. That's why we wanted to use this grant to replace those items. The standard bulletproof vest that we issue a patrol officer, it is successful at stopping small caliber rounds, but a lot of times the suspects that we do encounter do have high power weaponry. So that's why we need the ballistic shields or plates. The shields that we have are also expired. So my guys are operating with equipment that's past its manufacturer expiration date. This grant covers the cost of such items. This is what it's directed for or geared for, I guess. So that's why we're requesting that, the ballistic equipment. You mentioned the pole camera. So what that is imagine a house painter and he needs to paint the second story of a house. As opposed to getting a ladder, he has a pole and he extends it. So a pole camera is a camera essentially on an extendable pole like that. We use those in situations where we don't want to get too close to a potentially armed suspect and put our police personnel in the line of fire. We can use the camera from distances of 15 to 20 feet, hide cover, and not expose our people to potential gunman or gunwoman or an armed threat. The benefits of that are if we expose them and they take fire, then we have to return fire to protect our person. If we have this pole camera, we can deploy the camera, gain a visual of inside or the venue we're trying to protect or secure without exposing our officer, and in turn mitigating the chances that we would have to fire upon a suspect.
Thank you for those details. The other one was night vision binoculars.
Right. Well, we don't have the luxury of always having the ability to work in daylight. A lot of our call outs and our situations that we respond to are at nighttime or at dawn where the light is poor. And sometimes we don't want to get too close to a suspect or to a location to expose ourselves and then draw our attention to us and to potentially receive gunfire from bad guys or suspects. So with these kind of night vision binoculars, we have the ability to gain a visual of a location and attempt to locate a potential suspect without having to get so close as to expose ourselves and putting ourselves in that risk. Night vision, like I said, we operate at night. We work at night. We work at, when the sun isn't coming up yet. If you have standard binoculars and it's nighttime, they're no good to you because there's no ambient light to give you a visual of what you're trying to find.
Thank you. Are some of these items like decommissioned military items?
No, man.
They're new items that
Yes.
police departments are
they're-
requesting.
They're through manufacturers that make these items specifically for law enforcement purposes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And since Fire's here, I don't know if you want to share anything about, since I got the FTIR wrong. If there's anything you want to share about that request?
Sure, Madam Chair and Councilwoman Villarreal. We're excited. The old equipment was the size of a suitcase and would take half an hour to boot up and often wouldn't work. So this new threat ID device is essentially the size of a Kleenex box. Turns on in minutes and has the capability of identifying liquids and solids in just a few moments.
That's amazing. How accurate are they typically in identifying?
Quite accurate, yes. I don't know specific numbers, but yes, it's
Good.
a valuable tool.
Good to know. Thank you. I'm sorry I messed that one up. I am interested and maybe we could talk another time about how we are doing any kind of preparedness or trainings around any potential legacy waste accidents. And if we're collaborating with Santa Fe County and what that's looking like, because someone told me that we don't have a plan around that, but maybe they didn't know all the details. And so I don't know if you all or if Director Williams has any insight on that. Because I think it's, it's a reality and we want to be as prepared as possible.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Viorel, thanks for the question. We actually did just complete a large-scale exercise in the fall in October that involved that specifically. We brought in a whip truck and put on a scenario or a couple of scenarios. It was a 2-day event. Our teams were challenged with trying to identify and mitigate that type of situation. Director Williams was also very involved with that.
Great. That's good to hear. Maybe it was before that happened. This person was just hoping that there would be some kind of collaboration and ongoing training for that. But it sounds like you all will be doing regular trainings in that area.
Yes, ma'am. We hope to, sure.
Thank you. No further questions.
So much.
Let me add, Councilor Villarreal will be doing an after action. When I say we, it's the Office of Nuclear Transport from Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources, the WHIP program, and we'll be doing an after action. You're welcome to attend beyond the 19th.
How do I participate? What does that look like? We could talk after. I'm so curious about that.
Sure. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from members of the committee? And if not, just want to note, Counselor Chavez did have to leave. She left at 6:33. Thank you. And if not, can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. May I please have a roll call?
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Chair Cassett,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you so much. All right, moving along to item N. Item N is request approval to enter into an exclusive negotiating agreement between the City of Santa Fe and Live Art Santa Fe for the purpose of performing due diligence activities and negotiating terms for land and building disposition and redevelopment of the Midtown Performing Arts Center pursuant to the city's request for proposal number 23-16-P. We have Lee Logston, our Midtown Asset Development Manager, Karen Iverson, our Director of the Metropolitan Redevelopment Area, Rich Brown, Director of Community Development. I do not see Daniel Hernandez, but we do also have Pat Fagali from Legal. Before we jump into this, as members know, the contents of the proposal are still confidential. I know that I'm going to be requesting a executive session to discuss this at governing body. So that will be continued so we can really dive into the details. But at the moment, both Michael Garcia or Councilor Michael Garcia and Councilman Villarreal pulled this. So I will defer to whichever one of you want to go first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually was wanting to suggest an executive session. We start with those and it's really helpful to kind of frame things and get some of the questions that we have that we can't ask in a public setting. And that was really my intention to pull it. And I was trying to think about what can you share? What questions can I ask? And there's a lot that we can't ask. So what can you share about this in this context? And maybe you could just start there. And then I think all of us really would want an executive session.
Madam Chair, Counselor, what we can share is the process that has occurred to date to get us to where we are. The fact that the city issued a request for proposals, that we got applications, that we had a selection committee review those to make sure that they met the minimum qualifications, and that we have negotiated an exclusive negotiation agreement with the applicant that outlines the due diligence steps that will occur over the next period of time to both that the concept of the applicant and also that the building and all the agreements that make the guts of the development agreement are what will be outlined further through that negotiating agreement process.
Well, I think, yeah, I think it would just be helpful. Maybe you all can share why we didn't start with executive and go into, and then have it be presented in committee. I don't know if there was a reason for that.
Counselors, no one requested an executive session, so there's not one on the agenda. We can certainly have one at a governing body if that is the will of the council.
Councilman, will say that I did speak with the mayor today about getting an executive session. And I also mentioned to him that for all of these, because of course we're going to be doing these, that we should just automatically be starting with executive sessions. So that we don't go through this process again, because we did this with the last couple where we just kind of popped them through committee. Because we knew that what we really wanted to discuss was an executive session. So, we should change that process moving forward.
I feel like we did do some proactive executive sessions on the first two without the request. And then I think there was an additional request for an executive session for further elaboration. So yeah, I think it may be just to be proactive about it. Both of them were discussed. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, it's more just getting some details that just because of curiosity that we can't ask here. So that's in my case, that was kind of what I was thinking, but I'll pass it to my colleague because I don't have any further questions.
Councilor Michael Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have the same questions and request of an executive session, just because it's helpful as we move along through this process. I guess one of the only questions, just because it is in the packet, is this ENA is for 12 months, correct? Okay, just so I'm understanding the process. I mean, a lot of the other questions I have are unfortunately exec session material. That's why I pulled it, is I want to have an executive session to discuss before make decisions at the committee level. That's all I got, Madam Chair.
So a couple options that we have, well, I guess we can approve, we can move forward with that recommendation. When we do have the executive session, I do believe that we will have the capability to refer back to committees at that point if we decide to do that. So I will leave it up to the committee as to how you would like to proceed tonight, given that we will the questions that we'll have, we cannot ask here at this time, and we'll be discussing in detail later.
Madam Chair, quick question, just because finance, it's passed, my clerk, question, that's finance.
It did pass finance, so it will go to governing body. So we don't have to worry about that technicality, which we were able to take care of that at the finance committee.
So with that being said, we scheduled for the December 13th governing body meeting. We can have a scheduled executive session and then vote after the executive session, similar to we've done in the past.
Yes, that's correct. Madam Chair, Councilor Garcia, that's what I want to definitely move forward with.
Okay, sounds great. So then I'll go to make a motion to move forward without any recommendation.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. May I please have a roll call?
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Chair Cassidy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here for that. And we look forward to seeing you in executive. Moving on to item O, request for approval of recovery funds subrecipient contract, ARPA with the LifeLink to provide support services and 24-hour on-site supervision to the safe outdoor space, total amount of $440,192 through December 31st, 2024. We have Brittany Rodriguez, our Youth and Family Services Program Manager, as well as Kira Ochoa, Community Health and Safety Director, as well as Maria Sanchez Tucker, our Community Services Director. So Counselor Michael Garcia, I will pass this on to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, don't really have questions, just want to take this opportunity to allow for you to educate the public on what this proposal encompasses and how it's going to benefit the community.
Chair and committee, members of the committee and Counselor Garcia. I'm going to ask Brittany Rodriguez to, as the program manager, to provide an overview so the public will know how we're moving forward with the project. Thank you.
Gosh, I was prepared to answer questions, not give an overview. I guess kind of, Madam Chair, Counselor Garcia, just to backtrack, you know, this project started with a resolution calling to action the city to create a safe outdoor space, recognizing that we have a lot of individuals, our community, who don't access traditional services, and trying to be creative in finding a way to get people engaged in services and sheltered. The safe outdoor space is a model that's been used nationally. It's something that has provided alternative sheltering options to cities who are having troubles finding places for our unhoused individuals to be. And so the city of Santa Fe recognized that this might be something that we could use as a model to add shelter beds to our community. Research has shown that crime in the neighborhoods where they are erected actually goes down. Community engagement goes up. Individuals who utilize these spaces are moved directly into housing most of the time, and are able to maintain their housing a little bit more consistently because of the condensed services they received at the safe outdoor space. So not only are they receiving housing, they're receiving support, life skills, meals, employment opportunities. So they're just very resource-rich spaces, which is what Santa Fe is trying to model in order to set individuals experiencing homelessness up for the best possible success that they can reach. I'm sure I am missing a lot of things.
So this is to help provide support services. Can we give an overview? Because I know it's yet to be determined, because that will be determined should this pass. But can we get an overview of what this support services might encompass?
Yeah, I don't have the RFAP in front of me, but support services encompass basic services such as basic needs, hygiene, meals, all the way up to mental health services, counseling, assessment, substance misuse, abuse services through counseling, and direct access to services from the service provider for those types of things. As I mentioned, employment opportunities. What other types of support services? And actually, the individuals living in those spaces themselves have shown to create peer support services. So it's not only getting support from the providers, but also from each other, and being able to navigate the experience collectively and share knowledge and experience.
Madam Chair, we did have waiting in the Zoom room, I'm sorry, I was remiss in not mentioning this, Dr. Kathleen Voorhees from Project Moxie, and I don't know if we can get her up on the screen. Was trying to communicate by email and not having much luck, but she is a consultant that's been hired by our partners at S3 Housing Initiative to work with the community, and she has a lot of experience with these safe outdoor space projects in Colorado. So Dr. Van Voorhees, thank you for being here. I don't know if you might add to the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Counselors, the life link and for service providers, one of the most important things is that
they really are offering that around the clock support. They're making sure that case management, housing navigation is on hand, and really making sure that we offer a wraparound services approach to anyone who comes in with the goal of rapidly rehousing anybody who is served through the pallet shelter community. So as Brittany said, while we do focus as well on basic needs, showers, food, things of that nature, really LifeLink's job is to create a community in which we know there is consistent support and support that allows us to move people on through the continuum and not have them fall back into homelessness and an additional cost to the community.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that clarification. And the second part of the request talks about 24-hour on-site supervision. Does that mean security?
So that means,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Like I'm happy to. So yes, so there is both staffing and security. We do have someone on site 24 hours a day to make sure that not only those in the community, if they have any issues, have contact, but also those who are living within the pallet shelter community in itself feel secured in their built community where it will be located.
Well, I appreciate the overview and helping to educate the community on half of the resources that would be moving towards the safe outdoor space request. So feel free to add anything else. If not, I don't have any other questions on my behalf. I really thank you for helping to put some additional information out there.
Thank you. I love providing education and sharing about this project. So thank you for the opportunity.
That's all I got, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other questions, comments from the committee? One comment I have just about the kind of overall environment. I've been getting a couple reports from people that right now all of our shelter beds are full in the city of Santa Fe. Is that correct? As far as you know, you may not have that information on hand, but.
Madam Chair, that is not correct. There are open shelter beds in our community.
Okay, wonderful. And so for some of these individuals, I'm getting slightly off topic now, would we put them, send them, tell them to reach out to Santa Fe Connect if that's the information that they're giving and they're trying to help somebody? Okay.
Yeah, so within policies and procedures for the safe outdoor space, there's prioritization. So those might be a little more vulnerable or a little more ready to be housed, might be at the top of the list for the safe outdoor space. And then providers would work to find places for those other individuals on the list until they're able to potentially access that higher level of a resource.
Okay.
Madam Chair, for now, if people, this will take a little while if it passes to get off the ground. If people are concerned or needing shelter, they should call 211 if they have access to a phone. They'll be connected to shelter beds. They can also just walk in to Interfaith Shelter Pete's place anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that. And obviously, of course, continuing to provide variety of services and more non-congregate shelter is something we're all looking forward to. So thank you all for your work on this. What are the wishes of the committee?
To approve.
Second.
Motion second. May I please have a roll call?
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Chair Cassett,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you so much. Moving on to our next item E. Don't go anywhere. It's request for approval of goods and services contract with Christ Lutheran Evangelical Church for preparation and construction of a safe outdoor space utilizing 10 shelter units in the total amount of $388,176.75 through December 31st, 2024. Brittany Rodriguez, Youth and Family Services Program Manager, Kira Ochoa, Community Health and Safety Director, and Maria Sanchez Tucker, Community Services Director, and Kathleen Van Voorhees are all here still to answer questions. So I will pass it over to whichever you would like to go first.
Sure.
Councilor Figueroa?
Oh, there's two of us?
Yes, Counselor Michael Garcia Pulido as well.
Okay. I actually, I actually tried to call Brittany today because my questions seemed to be more simple, but we missed each other. And I guess I just want to applaud Christ Lutheran for taking on this pilot project and I think it's important to try something different, and in partnership with the LifeLink, I think this can give us a lot of insight of, what works, and moving into the future, what we could change and shift. And I was just curious, for the 10 shelter units, that's not necessarily, I think it was more than 10 people, correct? And if you could just say more about that.
So there are 10 shelter units that will be put in place. Each shelter can hold up to 2 people. So at any one time, up to 20 people can be utilizing that space. Additionally, it's not transitional living, it's not housing, it's shelter. So people should be cycling through those units as they're being housed. So in an ideal world where there's a bunch of affordable housing units that come with vouchers and support, we would be serving more than 10 individuals in 1 year. I think LifeLink's goal is to serve 40, recognizing that, we want to move people out of shelter and find stable housing for them.
I don't know why I thought it said 100 people, but maybe was reading something else.
Might have said that at one point.
We have 100 pallet homes that we could potentially purchase at some juncture.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Villarreal, that might have come from me, and maybe I was being really hopeful. I think it is hard to predict, how many people will be served, just because every individual is different, has different needs. In terms of rapid rehousing, as Dr. Van Voorhees says, some people can be reunified with family members relatively quickly. Some people need that voucher and an affordable unit. So I think 40 is probably ambitious. We have to consider that LifeLink needs to hire staff for the project. 40 is a nice target for this pilot project. If we serve more, we'll be thrilled.
Great. Thank you. I did get a question from somebody saying, well, if it was cost per unit, or sorry, cost per tenant, including, well, they were basically thinking about the person and how much that would cost to house them with these shelter units. And why don't we just put them up in a hotel? And my thought process is like, well, it's not just a shelter with a roof. It's also this wraparound services that also are part of the cost. So maybe you could speak to that, to dispel that
Dr.
myth.
Van Voorhees, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, I'd love to. So Councilwoman, you're absolutely spot on. If we take individuals who are in need of resources or services and we move them into housing, they have about a 20% chance of staying in that housing if we don't provide them with those wraparound resources. We also know a couple things. The first is there's really not a lot of affordable housing. There's almost no permanent supportive housing. Senior housing is growing to be anywhere between 1 to 4 years, depending on the type of assisted care that you need. And so we have individuals who are in need of different types of services, all of which LifeLink will be able to provide, as well as then with our community partners that are there in Santa Fe. The other thing I would say about the cost is that a lot of Christ Lutheran's cost is setup cost. And so this is a pilot to set that up. And so you're looking at water and electric and things of that nature. And that increases the cost per unit, but it is actually cheaper than still using emergency services, going to a hospital, and having to rely on our emergency response for those who are unhoused.
Thank you for the holistic details about that, because I think it's a bigger picture than just saying, well, we need to just put a roof over their head. And so I don't think hotel rooms and paying for hotel rooms is an option, because there's a lot more than just trying to make sure people are safe, but also that they have the services and support they need. The other question I had is if we'll be using the mobile hygiene unit for this pilot.
Councilwoman, I'm really excited to let you know that the mobile hygiene unit is going to a different agency to be used for outreach. And that Christ Lutheran and LifeLink, or mostly Christ Lutheran, will be providing facilities for hygiene on site. But the mobile hygiene unit gets to be in the community doing outreach and serving and taking showers to people rather than people having to come find us.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that clarity. And I think that's it. I wish everyone involved the best of luck, and we look forward to having check-ins and letting us know how things are going. Thank you.
You, Counselor Michael Garcia.
Free to expand again if there's any information you feel pertinent that the community needs to know, given that this is a pilot project. So I'll hand it off to you.
I think in Counselor Garcia, I think in regards to any additional information, I'll just echo what Kathleen said in terms of cost, and Christ Lutheran's contract for this specific element of the project is that setup cost. And then the ongoing cost from there will drastically decrease to maintain the site. So it's really just getting it up and running, beautiful. They've worked with the Lived Experience Advisory Board, which is a board of individuals who are currently experiencing homelessness or who have experienced homelessness, to come up with the design of the site so that it's trauma informed, so that people who are residing there, who are sheltering there, feel safe, feel, have privacy, yet still have access to community. So they were a huge part in designing the site with Christ Lutheran. But I think, in terms of this specific contract and its cost and how it came about, I think it's just really important to note that those with lived experiences put in a lot of effort and thought and advice into this project, and not just the people who are book smart.
Thank you. And I guess the follow-up question is, can you explain or help share some information regarding the Good Neighbor Agreement? It's required as part of this process.
And Kathleen, do you mind if I throw that one to you?
Not a problem. So yes, we do. I've set these up in 13 different areas across the country. We always require a good neighbor agreement. The point of the good neighbor agreement is that we expect both the neighbors and businesses in the community, as well as those that are moving in to these pallet shelters, to be able to live in harmony. And so to come together and have a conversation about what would we expect of our neighbors and how do we ensure that we're good neighbors together. So a good example is always, we can guarantee that we have quiet hours. We expect our neighbors, even when we go home at night, to not be blasting music at 10 p.m. or things of that nature. And we want to make sure that there's an agreement and an understanding that we have rules and policies. The Good Neighbor Agreement also just talks about how can we stay in touch? How do we stay in communication? If something were to come up, if there's a concern that does come up, whether or not it has to do with the pallet shelters, but has to do with our immediate community in which we're in, how do we work together to resolve that? And so that Good Neighbor Agreement is something I will personally be helping craft with LifeLink, as well as Christ Lutheran. And then we will continue to meet with the local communities to make sure that they have a point of contact and that we have ongoing community meetings on a monthly basis to make sure that there is just an open flow of communication.
Okay, thank you for sharing that information.
Absolutely.
Just as I asked last, any other pertinent, relevant information in regards to you feel that needs to be kind of put out there for public consumption?
Yeah.
Direct
Brittany, I think
moment. It's all pertinent, but I don't know if there's really anything else that needs to be thrown out there, for on my end. But Kathleen, please, if you have more, or Kira, if there's anything else you want to add, I think that I want to be transparent and we want to be educational. So
I don't have anything to add, Counselor. I think it's I might have more to add on the 13th.
Okay. Understand.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Voorhees, didn't want to cut you off. I know you're virtual, but anything else that you might want to add?
No, thank you. I think the only thing I'd note is that, I applaud the city on their application process and really ensuring that it was best practice and trauma informed, which really always makes for a quality pilot. So I do applaud the city on that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Appreciate the presentation opportunity to ask some questions. That's all I got, Madam Chair.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments? And if not, can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, roll call, please.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Chair Cassett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Last item, and I will be quick, I promise. Item Q, request for approval of fiscal year 24 budget increases for land use department in the total amount of $356,382. We do not have Director Klug here, but we do have Assistant Directors Lamboy, and do we still have Tom on there? Maybe in the attendees room? I think this is actually mostly for Director Lamboy, so I think we'll be good. Number one is request for approval of a budget adjustment resolution bar in the amount of $116,382 to allocate FY 23 gross receipts tax revenue earned over budgeted estimates to fund 2 new full-time positions and increase salary for 1 vacant full-time position, and 2, request for approval of a budget adjustment resolution bar in the amount of $240,000 to allocate FY 23 gross receipts tax revenue earned over budgeted estimates to acquire digital planning and development solutions to improve operations. We did have a really great, oh, hi, there's Director Graham. Hi. We did have a really good conversation in finance, and I encourage anyone to take a look at what some of these digital purchases are going to get us. But I actually wanted to talk a little bit about the timeline for the strategic planner position and how that is aligning with the timeline for as we move forward with the general plan, getting that contractor on board. I know the RFP closed on the 28th. We are reviewing applicants, hopefully seeing that contract coming to governing body in January. Let's say we're hoping for January. But I know that the strategic planner position is key for a lot of this, that is the point person. And I'm just having a little bit of consternation around the timeline for how long it might take to get this position in place, and really get this project rolling. So I don't know if you can speak a little bit to what our timeline's looking like for actually hiring this position, or maybe even Director Brown, this might go to you. So whichever of you would like to speak to this.
Chair Cassett, with reference to the timeline for the strategic planner position, the job description, Maggie Moore and I drafted the job description, and Director Klug reviewed the description, and we have submitted that to Human Resources. And this time it's in a holding pattern until the component class study is completed. So
where did that come from? Who was it? Was that? Oh, fascinating. That was you.
So
from the past.
I know.
Speaking to us in the future. Go ahead.
So as soon as the class and comp study is complete, and I know that we're getting there, then the HR department will be able to sign off on starting the recruitment process for that position. You are correct. The general plan update, we have 4 proposals, respondents to the RFP. It's currently being evaluated, and the end of next week, we should have a recommendation from the evaluation committee. And then at that point, we will shop it with a senior management to go over the comments, and possibly, if needed, there would be oral presentations. If they're too close or they're all close, for instance, we would bring everybody in for those presentations. So the real hope is to have a position advertised, but as you know, the issue is that it takes about a good 30 to 60 days to do the interviewing process, and then another good 30 days at least to get somebody on staff. So the estimating is right now, my hope, my dream is March, so that we can really pull together and start, that person would start on the ground running with both the zoning code update as well as the general plan update. And then they would move into, implementing other policies and strategies and other plans accordingly.
Okay. So it's still gonna be taking a little while. I guess maybe for senior staff, you know, hopefully we can get that class in comp. Well, this is end up pass along the information. Really would like to get that class in comp done. I'm definitely hearing a lot of things are being held up right now. So hopefully we can be seeing that soon. I thought we might be getting a presentation by the end of the year. Do you have any information on that? Either of you?
I believe the presentation will be given in December.
Great, at the December 13th.
Yes.
Okay, so next week.
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. And then I'm assuming that this won't, or I'm hoping that this won't necessarily pause the progress of getting started on the general plan, even if we have that contractor selected and under contract prior to getting this new position in place.
No, Chair Cassett. I mean, we do have staffing issues in current planning. So a lot of Daniel Alvarado's attention has been going to cases and case management for the Planning Commission. But that is one of my roles. And so I most certainly will be involved with that. And I've been project managing the general plan updates. So, you know, I think we'll be able to manage until which time we get a strategic planner hired.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that and appreciate you going over that alignment as well. And again, really glad that we are getting this position funded and moving it forward. And I know that current planning is probably also happy to be having this position funded, so we're not filtering resources from there. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee on this item at this time? Can I get a motion?
To approve. Second.
Motion and a second, a roll call, please.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Chair Cassett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sticking it out with us this long, to both of you. All right, we made it through consent. Moving on to matters from staff. I will pass it along over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple things. Wanted to let everyone know that the library has again gotten their Big Read grant for $20,000 from the National Endowment for the Arts. It's a very prestigious award that enables them to do a community-wide book club, if you will. And the book this year is going to be Circe, which is a reimagining of the Greek myth. And that is by Madeline Miller. So we can go Greek when the Big Read comes out. And one exciting thing the library is doing, they're always pressing for innovation, is partnering with the Literary Festival as well. So they're not only doing all the wonderful work they do with the schools and other community groups, but they're sort of ramping into the community, the Santa Fe Literary Festival. The other thing is that, as you know, we recently had our first Code Blues of the season. And I just want to give a shout out to the public safety staff for going above and beyond, and also to the community for all the outpouring of concern and care that they showed for people who are unsheltered out there. We got a lot of requests for what can we do, and but they were glad to learn that we do that. We always do that during cold weather. We go out and make sure people, if they need transport to shelter, get transport. One of the things I wanted to just let the community know is that we have a wonderful group of volunteers working on ending homelessness in Santa Fe, and that's hosted by the S3 Santa Fe Housing Initiative, which the city is part of, the county is part of, and all the foundations in town are part of, as well as some business folks. So s3santafe.org, s3santafe.org has information if anyone is interested in volunteering. And it doesn't have to be direct service. You can lend your skills in a variety of ways to helping solve the problem. Thank you.
You, Madam Chair, members of the council, I just have a couple of things. One, I want to thank my team from Tourism and Arts and Culture that did their presentations tonight. So I was glad that they were able to give an update. I think that you could see there's a lot going on and I have less hats to wear. So I'm excited about that part. Secondly, the NEA actually was here this week. They had a conference here, and so our Arts and Culture Department met with the regional director. So we are looking to extend our relationship with the NEA for some programming that they want to do in the new year. Third, we were awarded a grant from the National League of Cities called Good Jobs, Great Cities. And just on Monday, we had a convening, inviting some federal Department of Labor folks. There was Senator Heinrich's office was here, some state representatives, and Councilor Cashett was there also as a part of the convening. And it was nice to see our ecosystem working on workforce development. We also had 6 local businesses that talked about the issues surrounding how we bring jobs and sustain jobs locally. But the big, I think the big sort of climax of the event, which was very positive, was Jose Villarreal from the public schools talked about our work-based learning program and what we're doing and the success of it. And he brought 6 students who told their story, and they were working on a panel, and they talked about what they were learning about this and how it's moving forward. So I appreciate you guys, the votes that you've been providing to extend this piece. And then we are looking at moving into FY25 to make sure that it's extended, because it was becoming very, very popular with our students in the community. I had a conversation earlier this morning about how do we help or resolve the boomerang issue where kids leave going either to college or to Albuquerque or to Las Vegas, and how do we keep them here? And this program is a way for us to start to build that social capital that these students need, so that they realize that there's opportunity once they leave school. So we're very excited about that, and that the conference was very successful. Also, the Office of Affordable Housing submitted their HUD CAPER report, which was really well done. I was really excited about what they did. And the HUD representative, who's regional here based in Albuquerque, sent a very nice complimentary letter back to Cody for the work he's done. And it will be published soon. I don't know when, but I might have them come and do a presentation of it. But it was well done for what the city is being doing. And then lastly, I just want to say I'm excited about an MRA director who's here. And she's doing a lot of work. We're really working together with our multiple internal departments, and we're moving forward fast. And she's now found a place to live here, and she's here locally. So we're very excited about that. So I just want to say I'm excited about having her on board and moving things forward. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Matters from the committee? Okay. Matters from the chair. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Since this is officially my last quality of life meeting, I just wanted to just thank staff and all the team that makes this committee so robust. I just feel like a lot of the topics are areas that I'm passionate about and areas that I do have expertise in. And so it's just been not just a great learning experience, but very enriching for me. And I'll miss this. Actually, I really will miss this committee, because there's just a lot of topics that I care passionately about. And so I'll miss that. And I just wanted to thank staff for all your insight and mentorship and leadership. And I've learned so much from your teams and just from all of my colleagues. Yeah, I will be missing you all. And I was thinking about this, like, yes, I will miss quality of life, but I'm more excited about supporting my quality of life. And being able to, being able to have one job and still do important work around social justice and social, gender, and racial justice. So all of those things I'll still be doing, but in my own way. So thank you all. And yep, I will be around doing other advocacy work, and I'm sure we'll be crossing paths in other ways.
Madam Chair, may I? Councilwoman Villarreal, I didn't really remember that this was your last meeting. It's not going to be the same committee without you. I'm deeply thankful to you for your insight, your incredible breadth of knowledge, your passion for the community, and the service that you've given to city and the Quality of Life Committee in particular. It's you'll be some hard shoes to fill. So thank you so much for all your support of the staff and the issues.
Madam Chair, I think Director Chua said a lot more than I wanted to say also, but I also want to say thank you, Councilor Villarreal. I think that one may or may not know this, but I think you've added so much impact to our approach and our goal and mission for affordable housing in the city. And your work with the CDC additionally has been helpful, even with this HUD report that we just received. I think your leadership there has been great. And I think that my team also appreciates the fact that when you bring items to the table, you're actually listening to what they're saying and you're scribbling your notes. And we appreciate the fact that you are actually asking details that we want to get out there. And I just want to say thank you for your service and also friendship and insight that you've brought to the city and what you've done here. So thank you.
And I do have like multiple notebooks of notes. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but they help me like process things. So maybe I'll refer back to them, or maybe I'll just do a ceremony and burn them all.
Funny, I was actually cleaning out my desk the other day and like I have all of these notebooks. I'm like, do I keep? Like, what do I, and it's, I can't read my own writing, but for some reason I still have to keep them anyway. Anyway, matters from the chair. I did want to recognize you. I feel like I just am doing like a series of goodbyes at this point. Like this is what, number 4, 3, I'm not sure. And I know it's not the last one yet. So, but I really want to thank you for your contribution to this committee. And I will very much miss you. Both here, in general, but I really will miss you on this committee and the insight that you have brought and the thoughtfulness in the conversation. And knowing that I can always look at you to be like, start the conversation, please. So someone's going to have to do that for me moving forward. But thank you, really, really, truly thank you for your work here. Very much going to miss you, and I don't have to say goodbye fully yet or ever really fully, but so I'll stop now. But just really want to recognize your work here. It's been invaluable. So thank you. And with that, it says no meeting scheduled. We will get those schedules up and running soon. So I imagine we will be seeing everybody the first Wednesday of the new year. That would be January 3rd. So if we start on time, that will be our next meeting. And then at 7:24, we are adjourned. Thank you.